Here with Banana Rabbi doing the push-ups.
Welcome to the Late Parsha Show. Parshas Vayechi.
Okay, come on, are you ready? Okay, come on, are you ready?
At the end of last week's Torah portion, finally, after 22 years of suffering, Jacob refines.
Situation and occupation of all your happiness.
In last week's Torah portion, after 22 years of suffering, Jacob finally reunites with his son Joseph in Egypt. Jacob and his whole family joined Joseph in Egypt and have been living there for 17 years. And these have been the best years of Jacob's life. In this week's Torah portion, Jacob falls ill and is ready to pass on. We read about Jacob's parting words and final blessings to his children and grandchildren. And actually in the Torah, the grandchildren come first. Joseph brings his two sons who were born to him in Egypt to get blessed by their grandfather Jacob. One was named Menashe, and one was named Ephraim. Menashe was Joseph's firstborn, so Joseph expected for him to get some extra attention in the blessing. However, much to his surprise, the extra attention and affection went to Ephraim, the younger son. So Joseph said, "Hey, Dad, Abba, Father, Tati." I don't know what he said. He said, "He's not the firstborn. Why are you giving him the extra attention? Menashe is the firstborn." So Jacob said, "I know he's not the firstborn, but I choose to give him the attention because he'll be greater." Okay, so Jacob didn't make a mistake. He saw that the younger one would be greater and therefore gave him the extra attention. But what about Joseph? He was on a pretty high level of godly consciousness also. Did he make a mistake in thinking that his father was mistaken? Obviously not. He didn't make a mistake. Rather, Joseph and his father Jacob had two different ways of looking at things, had two different worldviews. Without quoting all the verses and saying too many Hebrew words, I'll tell you this. Joseph's two sons who were born to him in Egypt were each named for a very deep feeling that Joseph had in his heart. Now, again, without saying too many Hebrew words, let's analyze. The first son's name is Menashe. This means the cause to forget. Joseph felt that by divine providence leading him to exile in Egypt, he might forget all the holiness that he experienced in his father's house. This obviously pained him greatly, so he named his son on this feeling. His second son is named Ephraim, which in Hebrew is connoting the fact that Joseph was very successful in Egypt, and he named his son this to thank God for the success that he is having. The feeling most commonly felt by Joseph was that of him being exiled in Egypt. The meaning behind his first son's name, Menashe, the feeling of being behind bars and trapped in exile. This is why Joseph felt the extra attention should go to the firstborn, because that was his perspective on life. It really stinks being in exile. His name specifically expressed this. But Jacob preferred the meaning behind the younger son's name as a good outlook for life. That even when you're in a place or a situation that you don't like, you make the best of it. Realize that God put you in this uncomfortable position to fulfill a special role. And only you can really be successful. And that's why he gave the attention to the younger son, because his name expressed this attitude. There was no mistake on Jacob's or Joseph's part. Rather, a Jew must adopt both of these perspectives. We're not at home in exile, and it should pain us. We should realize that we're not where we belong. And with that said, you have the responsibility every day, every moment, to feel and actually say, Ad Masai, until when? When is this exile gonna end? But our lives mustn't solely be filled with the feeling of pain being in exile. We must also have the second perspective. We're here, and if that's the case, God wants us here. Why is the painful question? But the only answer we have is that if we're in a gloomy and dark situation, it's only in order to bring light to it. And it's no secret how we light up the darkness of exile. Through increased studying of the Torah and fulfilling the mitzvahs, the holy commandments from God, we are not only able to withstand the exile, but we transform the darkness of it to light. And if we'll just all live like this, there will only be light. I'm just hyped up for the Late Parsha Show!
Even if the world can be different, you can attain happiness and change in an instant. They bounce and shot with